But I guess I do understand, though, Michael, that concern, especially when you said that they put it on the table, then they took it off the table. Like, the whole, like, kind of wavering that went on last week, basically. I mean, we thought on Tuesday there was going to be no earnest money. And then all of a sudden they were like, no, we'll do that with you guys, but we want to work through some terms and conditions. So there has been some, I guess I would be curious of what the real actual intent would be and just how, like, legitimate or how far they were willing to take this process. I think what's frustrating is that if they were having conversations with the Village of Willow Springs about having a conversation with us, that this whole time just kind of set us all up to be, you know, public enemy number one from the village's perspective, from the park district's perspective, and from the school district.
But I mean, to be fair, we also said no to meetings that were asked of us, and you emailed us about it, and it made, I totally agree, it made sense. We're not in a position to talk to Willow Springs.
It did, right.
And we didn't say anything, you know, we didn't say anything back tonight to correct the misinformation that was shared, which is an option as a board that we can do, and we tend to not do it, right? Like, I don't know. So what is next for us?
Right.
Couple questions. Do you know how many, this is a completely different, I'm sorry, I'm switching subjects a little bit. How many kids at LT are that area?
124 current students. Just pulled that last week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the
To Julie's point, I have a couple questions for the board about that, about the communication. Like this board, we all talked about this in October, right? What do we engage with the park district? Do we engage with the school district, with the village ahead of time? I want to revisit that and say, okay, where are we at as of January 23rd? And I mean, I honestly, you guys heard it tonight. I've been hearing it for a couple of weeks. Like that relationship with all three entities is napalmed. So if we do reintroduce the idea of engaging with them at some level, it's going to have to be very strategic, and we'll have to find an entry point that might be difficult to do, but we can certainly do that.
Because they didn't want to meet with you after the bids were opened, right?
No, so they first reached out to me on December 27th, I think, or December 28th.
Yeah.
And that was the school district. It was actually the president of the school board.
That's right.
The response we sent back was premature. The meeting is premature. Then the village, Melissa, the mayor, emailed me last week ago Friday, wanting to bring everyone again together. I responded to just them and said, again, the meeting on the 19th is premature. However, we would like to meet with you guys on just you. I didn't respond to anyone else, and I invited just the village to a meeting tomorrow. They didn't respond to that.
I mean, here's my question. What's to be gained by meeting with them? They all came and said what they needed to say tonight. I mean,
What's to be gained by not meeting with them?
they might, like,
I mean, what?
not be positive. I mean, it's, what more can you have said?
I think
You're
it's
not
the
gonna change
age-old
your
question.
terms.
I think it's the age-old question of, is it better to ask someone for their input and then do the opposite? Or is it better to not ask them for
That's
their
my
input?
concern.
Well, and that was our conversation,
That was
to
our
be honest.
conversation,
And we
yeah.
also said, we laid it at the feet of the village, and they know it. So
Yeah.
we did that. But I would also argue, and I said this to Jill as we were walking in here, because it just makes me crazy, and I know that this is just how it is, when people just get up and leave because you're complaining that you don't understand the work of the board, but you aren't paying attention to the work of the board. And especially the better part of 2 years. There's been nothing but community outreach about the direction of the district, conversations about facilities, constantly saying, you know, are we going to apply for a grant? Are we going to evaluate our reserves? Are we going to evaluate our assets? That has been discussed in the open at this table the whole time I've been on this board. So, I mean, I think part of it was, maybe it was naive just to say, well, we don't know until we know. What is there to talk about until we have something to talk about? So maybe that was some naivete, but.
And there's a lot of confidentiality in doing that to
Yeah.
get, I mean, I think they wanted our input they wanted to give us our input, so like what you said, so we don't want industrial there. Okay, so we would say, we can have any bidder but an industrial bidder.
Right.
And then if we had said that, then they would have been like, we told them what we wanted and they didn't listen to us. I mean,
Right.
I think we're in a no-win situation, but I think we would be worse off if we got input and then ignored that input.
And that's
I
what we
think
That's why
talked
we
about.
were at that
predicting
place.
this, and who knows, like it's an alternate universe, right? But if thought about this a lot over the last couple of weeks, especially, and I think that all of those conversations with the players would have been a tremendous push on their part to search for a buyer that is some version of retail or residential. And we know the history of the appraisal of that over the years here, and it's more like a $15 to $20 million sale versus a $55 million sale.
And I think that
that's-
changes it for us. I mean,
Yeah.
and the reason I asked the question, I mean, I knew the question, but the reason I asked you the question, I knew the answer.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? But was just to demonstrate to them, because I felt that followed up with all the emails we've been getting about, we can find a better bidder, you've got to do this, but to circle back to our fiduciary duty. And maybe it comes back that we can't get a bidder at 55 million, and then we as a board need to say, is it worth selling for 15 million?
I say go for a referendum.
But that's where, I mean, I just wanted to put that out.
This didn't
that
work.
Anybody can do it.
Didn't like this.
What I wanted to say was invite everybody to our meeting in 2 weeks so
Well-
that they can hear the whole.
Yeah, if
It's not
we were
about
gonna-
that, right.
But then,
Right.
that wasn't going to be productive.
Right. I mean, that's just it. It's like, that was all focused on one community, one small community, and not, not the voices of the other 10.